discussion goes place, we just keep it under control.
Hey, how are you? I'm better. I can speak now. I lost my voice Friday. There's no voice Friday and Saturday.
Because there was something going on inside.
Oh, he did. He was very disappointed this morning when he got up, and I said, "Good." And he looked at me and went, "It's bad."
Chief? We're doing a presentation.
Could I ask a quick favor, Chief? Sorry to interrupt. Do you mind using the microphone, just since we're streaming?
All right. First, I'd like to thank Council for allowing us to do this presentation for their meeting. And I'd like to thank everyone in attendance tonight who came out to support Alex and the police department. The badge each of our officers wears represents honor and integrity, and they're held to a higher standard because of the responsibility that comes with that badge. Early in my career, I heard a story about two types of police officers with badges. The first type is a badge wearer. A badge wearer is someone who does the bare minimum. They don't concentrate on mastering their skills or ever improving. They want all the accolades but are unwilling to do any of the hard work. They're only in it for themselves. The second is a badge bearer. And a badge bearer is an officer who strives to be what the badge represents. Strength of character, resilience, integrity, honor, dedication, and sacrifice. The Ravenna Police Department is staffed with excellent people who are doing great things for their community by intentionally and selflessly helping people, sometimes at a high cost to themselves and their families. These officers are not motivated by recognition. They are quiet professionals who do their jobs and feel that being a police officer is a calling, something they are meant to do and have a genuine desire to help people. One of those quiet professionals is Patrolman Alex DeHoff. Alex grew up in Manaway and graduated from Crestwood High School in 2014. He spent 4 years in the Marines and was stationed at Camp Lejeune, North Carolina, and Okinawa, Japan. After graduating, or after getting out of the Marines, he worked as a corrections officer at the Portage County Sheriff's Office and went to the police academy. In addition, he gives back to the community by coaching track and football at Ravenna High School. Alex has worked for the Ravenna Police Department for almost 2 years, and in his short career as a police officer, he's proven himself to be a badge bearer. And I'm proud of his efforts to make Ravenna a safer place to live, work, and visit. I would now like to bring your attention to the early morning hours of August 18th, 2022.
On August 18th, 2022, while working the midnight shift, you responded to a medical emergency at 833 Mechanic Avenue regarding an unresponsive female not breathing. Upon arrival, Alex, you found the female subject turning blue, suspected there had been an overdose. You then administered 2 doses of Narcan, but the female subject remained not breathing and non-responsive. You then started CPR by administering chest compressions. After giving chest compressions, the female subject started to breathe shallow breaths. She stopped breathing again, and you continued to administer CPR until she started breathing again. The Ravenna Fire Department Emergency Squad arrived on scene and began to treat the female subject until she responded and regained consciousness. Eventually, the female, she could walk to the squad with assistance and was transported to UH Hospital for further treatment. During this medical emergency, you showed great composure, compassion, and professionalism. On behalf of the Ravenna Police Department, you are now awarded the Ravenna Police Department Life-Saving Award. Your bravery, professionalism, and devotion to duty are above reproach. This commitment to duty is held in the highest tradition of law enforcement profession. Given under my hand the City of Ravenna, the County of Portage, in the state of Ohio on this 7th day of November, is signed by Frank Seaman, the Mayor and Director of Public Safety, and Jeffrey Wallace, the Chief of Police for the Ravenna Police Department.
Give another round of applause. Again, I thank everyone for coming out, so that concludes our part. If you guys that came for the awards or to see that can go if you want.
Or you can stay and watch.
You can stay if you'd like to.
Or you can stay. But you probably want to go.
They're like knocking each other over together here.
That's great. That's wonderful. That's great.
So I guess we had to reschedule our records.
It's really good.
Chelsea.
That's really good. Also, Oak Ridge, Tennessee.
If there's something in the could disagree with this.
All right, we'll officially call the meeting to order for our Ravenna City Council meeting for Monday, November 7th at 6 p.m. The first item on the agenda is a moment of meditation and silence. Would you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, Chelsea, would you call the roll?
Mr. Kelly?
Here.
Ms. West? Here. Mr. Moskin?
Yes.
Ms. Michael?
Yes.
Mr. Karas?
Here.
Ms. Wood? Here. Mr. Harper?
Here.
All right, the next item on the agenda is approval of meeting minutes. We have meeting minutes from the regular city council meeting of October 3rd and the special city council meeting of October 11th. Were there any additions or corrections to either of those? Do we have a motion to accept as submitted?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Yes.
The one communications that we all should have received in the packet is a thank you card from the council from the Balloon Affair Committee for walking in the parade, I believe. So, yeah, it was a fun outing if nobody saw the photos. So thanks again to Amy and Christina and everybody who was organizing that. On our end.
They
So,
asked us for
yeah.
commitment next year, too.
Really?
Yeah.
It's fun.
The next, were there any other communications that we missed? Okay. The next item on the agenda is delegations from the public. We have two scheduled this evening. We'll start off, if we could, with Ms. Craycroft from Portage Parks District.
Thank you for allowing me to come tonight. I apologize if you can't hear me. I can't hear you. My ears are all stopped up. I'm still recovering. But I'm Chris Craycroft. I'm the Executive Director of the Portage Park District. And I wanted to present to you a request for consideration of coming into an agreement with the Portage Park District to sell the Crystal Lake parcels that you own to the Park District. We are currently negotiating with the private landowners around Crystal Lake. I believe you might have all received the packet that I sent. It has a map in it. The whole site is about 130 acres, but it's, for whatever reason, it was carved up like this over the years. I know it was formerly the city of Ravenna's water supply, and I know that, I think it was back in 2016 that you had finally removed all of the infrastructure that was there from the site since you obviously since moved to Consonant, your water supply. So Crystal Lake has been on our radar for a long time as an important conservation property. And the reason is because it's a high-quality glacial kettle bowl lake. It has several endangered species on it. It has great potential to be a park someday. And I thought that if the city were amenable to selling it, it might be an opportunity to get some revenues for the city. We have a chance to put in for an application for funding through the state of Ohio, the Ohio Conservation Fund. That grant application is due in mid-January. We've been very successful with that over the years in different properties. One of our most recent acquisitions in park developments is Trail Lake in Streetsboro. If anybody of you have been there yet, if not, it might be a nice example of what we could do with the property. So there we have it. I may be short notice for your consideration for January, but if it's at all doable, it would be beneficial, I think, to put all of our acquisition parcels together in one application. So on the map here, the red parcel, we have agreement from the private landowner, Willis Thomas. He's willing to sell to us, just have to sign the purchase agreement with him. Likewise, the pale green parcels, which are owned by the Nature Conservancy, which is a conservation organization, they're willing to transfer those to us at no cost. And what's great about that is that we could use the value of that land as a match for the grant. And then that would allow us to get funding to buy both Ravenna parcel and the Thomas parcel. The yellow parcels on the map here are already owned by the Park District. That's just about 10 acres. It fronts on Prospect Street, South Prospect Street. That was donated to us by Helen Dick several years ago. Right now, it's just vacant. There used to be a residence on it. We removed that. And it's also next to the Portage County Gardener Center on South Prospect Street. We had conversations with that group over the years about, the future of their property and what they have intended for it. And we don't have any agreement right now, but potential exists for a partnership there, I think, with their facilities out front. So I'm open to questions if you have any.
Yeah, and for just the logistics of this, we're just hearing the presentation tonight, and then I think my next step after questions is, Mayor, not tonight, but moving forward, kind of the opinion with where the administration lies on this proposal and whether or not this makes it to committee. Could you talk, one of my questions, on one of the parks that comes to mind when you said Streetsboro, and I haven't been to that park yet, but Towner's Woods I go to a lot. Can you talk about how that lake is preserved? Is that something Portage Parks does, or is that more on the City of Akron side that they do?
Yeah, that City of Akron owns
Okay.
Lake Pippin. They own that within 100 feet of the shoreline.
Okay.
Currently, the Park District leases Towner's Woods property from the county commissioners. We have a request into them, and they're willing to transfer the ownership of Towner's Woods to the Park District, which would also help facilitate us going forward
Okay.
with new improvements there.
What I was getting at, one of the questions that we were getting right off the bat was conserving what's there. I think it was the freshwater jellyfish that are on the state list of endangered species. How would the park be? Maybe may or may not. I don't know. How would the park be or area be preserved? That was one of the main questions.
So we have a natural areas stewardship staff. We've got 3 full-time employees on staff right now, and they're trained in a variety of techniques to conserve land. One of the threats that's been identified out there is invasive species. Phragmites is the tall reed grass, is the common name. It's super tall. It's got the big plumes on top. That's a non-native invasive species, and that's now forming quite a colony around the edge of the lake, and that's actually potentially impacting some of those endangered species, those endangered plants that are out there. I think most of the endangered species are plants that, just one of them is a darter fish, small fish. So not only with the invasive species management, we would also be able to patrol it with our law enforcement rangers and also other operations staff to make sure that we don't have any encroachments, illegal trespass, that sort of thing. I've reached out to ODOT about State Route 5. That is a limited access highway, so we wouldn't be able to have access from State Route 5. But one of the concerns that I want to work with ODOT on, if this comes to fruition, is dealing with the stormwater runoff. It may be that the pollutants, the salt and the other pollutants coming from the highway there, they are right now directly draining into the lake. And the Phragmites, that tall reed grass, thrives in salt water. So we're thinking that if we could be able to somehow mitigate some of that stormwater influence on the lake, that could help out as well.
Christine, when you have referred to joint, the word, joint partnership, joint effort, what in relationship with the city would you want from us? Would that be, working, with our street department, with our, our police department? Like, what are you referring to as in joint? Like, what would our relationship be, and what would your expectations be from this?
If we were able to purchase it outright from you, you wouldn't have any other obligations. In fact, you'd be relieving yourself of some liability back there. If you didn't want to do an outright sale, that would be our preference. Just makes things easier all around. But short of that, there could be a conservation easement on the property in which it would remain owned by the city, but it would have conservation restrictions that are attached to the deed and enforced by a third party that would essentially make sure that forever into the future, those conservation values are protected, meaning you would be able to strip mine it or clear cut it, and that's something. Another option could be a lease, a long-term lease. And that would, that would be in case we wanted to, if we were successful in acquiring the other properties around there, and we wanted to develop the whole thing as a park, and manage it as a unit, then that would be an arrangement with the city. Again, you would still have some liability, it would be in your ownership, and those terms could be all in place, as far as maintenance, management, security, that sort of thing.
Could you talk a little bit more about, eventually you'd like to create a public park that includes trails, picnic facilities, public programming, parking areas, roads, all those types of things. It would not be a conservancy space where it's just like left in a natural state and you can't put paved trails in. We're kind of familiar with a property that we're acquiring that we're going to develop some that has a lot of restrictions on that. Could you talk more about your vision for the public park there and what it would entail?
Sure. Well, I don't know how much you're familiar with the Park District and our history. We've come a long way. We've come a long way in a short time. So we've got kind of a backlog also of work that needs to be done with other properties that we haven't opened yet. So this is, if this, again, if it all came together, it'd probably be several years out before we were able to turn it into a park. But at this point, I just heard back from the Nature Conservancy, they wouldn't have any problems with having an accessible trail on their property. With the grant comes with it a environmental covenant from the state of Ohio that attaches to the deed as well, and that makes, you have to make sure that the conservation values are protected through that. But we also use Clean Ohio funds to purchase Trail Lake in a couple of different grants from different property owners. And that property right now has a 1.6-mile, 8-foot wide asphalt paved trail loop around the lake. It's probably our most popular park right now because it's an easy walk, it's a beautiful site. So we have the paved trail, which is handicapped accessible. And we also have natural surface foot trails that sort of also wind through there. We have educational signage. We do educational programming out there. We have, we're just now hiring a new education coordinator. We have an education specialist. We have a volunteer coordinator. We've got probably 90 volunteers, many of whom are very skilled, some are retired teachers, that sort of thing. So, basically, it would be a if it were open as a park, it would be open 365 days a year, dawn to dusk.
And you envision with picnic facilities, shelters?
Yeah, actually, there is one shelter out there right now. I think it's been out there for many decades. We could look at, improving that, maybe adding to that. But, yeah, a covered shelter with some picnic tables, something like that.
Yeah. And is there an area large enough for a grassy field there, or is it all that it would not be a possibility?
So grassy field for like sports or something like that?
Not sports, but open field,
The area
mowable.
Sure, the area that used to have all of the water plant infrastructure
Is
now
a clear area.
open and clear.
Okay.
Would you foresee passive recreation?
I'm sorry.
Would you perceive any type of passive recreation on the lake itself?
Potentially, kayaking, canoeing, that sort of thing. We'd want to look at fishing and fishing options or restrictions. That kind of opens things up into a whole other area for conservation management. So, we'd fishing available at some of our properties right now, Trail Lakes and Hill Pines.
There's already fishing restrictions, live bait restrictions on that lake.
Okay. That's good to know.
That's been in place for years, and nobody's fished on that lake legally for years.
Thank you.
No questions on my, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Again, if there's anything else in the meantime and you have questions, feel free to reach out to me. And I do have some park brochures for you. I'll just leave them out here somewhere.
Okay.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
very much.
Do you potentially see this moving to committee?
I think my question, not tonight, like I said, but asking the administration which
Okay.
way, how they feel on it, and then potentially
Mhm.
moving based on their opinion to committee.
Makes me wonder if we should look to Parks and Recreation to help us develop Emerald Lake and help us with the one that we acquired, with their expertise. And with this money that we're getting, we could use that money to develop that park. So that's
I think
Restrictions are very different.
for that.
Yes, but it still is expensive to put the trails in and to clear the things out and to get the parking areas ready and all those other things, which may be a good way for us to do it. Just a thought.
All right, to be determined. We do have one more delegation from the public scheduled this evening, so Harrison, I'll turn it over to you.
So, you guys all remember, I'm Arison Hughes, I'm from Main Street. I'm here today with Maria Heidel. We just wanted to kind of give you guys an end-of-the-year wrap-up of everything we have going on to keep you guys in the loop, just so you're informed of everything we're up to at Main Street.
Hello, everyone. My name is Maria Heidel, and as Arison kindly introduced me, I'm the treasurer of Main Street Ravenna. Wanted to start off by thanking you again for the support that you have shown us this year. Really very much appreciated. It's helped us get a lot of things done without taking up too much of your time. I kind of wanted to come and give you some of the highlights. First of all, I think it's just the work and the love and the labor that's gone into Main Street this year. We've contributed between our volunteers, our board members, approximately 43,000 in work equivalent volunteer hours for Main Street Ravenna events, which I think is very, very positive. We recently kicked off our Main Street Ravenna Star of the Month program for exemplary youth ages 5 through 18, which has been really well received. We're really thrilled to see that kick off. As of last week, we were once again awarded national accreditation for 2022 from our governing board. So that was, again, very, very pleased to make that announcement. We continue to sponsor the Shop Small initiatives via social media that Harrison's been very, very diligent about providing those updates. We will be actually participating in Midnight Madness this year after Thanksgiving. Earlier this year, we participated in the Halloween Walk and the Only in Ravenna events. And then we also hosted recently a small town cleanup. And of course, I think you all know from previous presentations by Arison that the DORA took effect effective Labor Day weekend. And we are pleased to announce too that our Winter Writing Festival will return again in person for 2023 and is currently in the planning stages. So once again, from the bottom of my heart, I wanted to thank you for your support, and we sincerely hope that you will consider maintaining your support for 2023. Thank you.
Do you guys have any questions for us as we wrap up the year?
No, it was pointed out to me by Larry behind you and a couple other people that you were out cleaning, Main Street. So it's being noticed by more than a few people. So thank you for all the work you've been doing on Main Street. So.
That's what we're here for.
Yeah.
It was great to see you guys out Halloween, too.
It was fun. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Do we have any other delegations from the public this evening? All right, we'll move on then to the report of officials, which should have been in your packets. Are there any questions pertaining to any of those?
ask a question on the,
Oh.
Bob? On this, you might not even know. For the property maintenance stuff, it says political signs on here. Is that placement of political signs, I'm assuming? Or what is?
It's in with.
Because it says political signs, driveway change fencing for one, and then another one is fence, yeah, both of them. So we're sending letters about political signs, or no?
This one is.
Yeah, I know, it's kind of, it's enough information to be dangerous, that's what it is, that's
I
the
would
problem.
have to ask Don
Okay.
exactly what he's referring to.
I know we've had lots of discussion about signage, so I wanted to make sure that it was, I was assuming that it would be placement, not, especially in October.
And
with the
he
election
has
coming
been
up.
told to not remove a political sign. If
Okay.
anything, just relocate it behind the sidewalk, but don't put it in, don't remove it.
In fairness, there's one area that could be a problem, because if you read that, it's been brought to my attention by Mr. Slanius, that there, part of that ordinance on signs says they cannot be attached to trees. And
Oh, I know what
may have to deal with that after the election's over.
Political signs are a slippery slope. It's,
That's kind of why I was surprised to see it on here. That's,
it's, yes, it'd be difficult for any political party to do either way.
Mhm.
So we try to, if it's as simply pick the sign up, put it behind the sidewalk, that's what we do. If it's a sight distance issue, we will have to do something about that.
Okay.
But at least inform it, but most of them seem to obey.
and the other question that I had was on the tree lawn parking. Did we have someone apply for a permit for tree lawn parking, or is that still in progress?
Yes, we've had 2 people. Next committee meeting, I want to further discuss a plan.
Okay.
We've run across a couple residents who don't, the front of the house to the sidewalk is 14 feet. You know, they're homeowners, they're not renters, the type of folks that we want in this town,
Mm-hmm.
with younger children, that sort of thing. So, in my years, I haven't issued a tree lawn parking permit, but we may have to issue a few tree lawn parking permits.
Okay, thank you. That's great.
All right.
Have we, real quick question on this, if I could, on, the one problem child on Diamond Street, have we figured out a way to address that with the trash constantly in the front? I just wondered how many times it's been there, because I'm still seeing it.
So currently, the ordinance says they can't be left out at the street, and they're moving them off the tree lawn,
It's in the front yard still.
but it's, yes, and we don't have an ordinance
Right,
that
Yes,
says,
I'm aware.
that states they can't be where they're located.
Are you suggesting we should upgrade that ordinance or update that ordinance to,
I'm not
Move.
suggesting that. If you guys
That's what I
want to,
tried to
we can
suggest.
discuss it.
but it got voted out, and
Yes.
no one was interested in my committee, so it looks like I'll bring it back again.
That's fine.
Mayor, just as a heads up, can you pull your microphone towards you and make sure it's on? Thank you. All right. Any other questions on the report of officials? Do we have a motion to accept as submitted?
So move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Yes.
Committee meetings will be the 14th, so next week, beginning with utilities. Mr. Moskin?
At this time, there will be one item on the agenda.
All right. Information systems, Ms. West?
To be determined.
All right. Planning, Mr. Karas?
We have 2 items for consideration tonight, and we will have a meeting next Monday.
Thank you. Committee of the Whole will be Monday, November 21st, beginning at 6 p.m. Public Health and Safety, Ms. Michael?
Well, you heard, I'll be bringing trash back for the 3rd time to my committee. Hopefully, we'll get something from that this time. So that's one thing I do know for sure.
Streets and Sidewalks, Mr. Harper.
Two items for consideration this evening, and we will be having a meeting.
And then Personnel, Mr. Calfee.
No items tonight, no meeting next week.
Never say no.
Community and Economic Development, Ms. Wood.
There's nothing this evening, but there will be at least one item for consideration for committee.
And are there any updates for cemetery from Mr. Harper and Mr. Moskin?
They're in cleanup mode right now with the leaves, so they're spending a lot of time with that right now. Pretty much status quo. No major issues right now.
All right. And Mr. Calfee, are there any updates from the Parks and
Yes, a couple we'd like to mention tonight. On October 29th, we hosted the third annual Halloween drive-through, and several of you council members participated in that, and thank you for that. Parks and Recreation welcomed over 500 kids, parents, sponsors, and volunteers that night. It was great weather, great day, really a nice activity for the third annual drive-through. A couple other things. There's a fall Arbor Day, a spring Arbor Day. Did you know there's a fall Arbor Day also? There is, and it was celebrated this year when the Tree Commission planted a tree at City Park, and all the third graders in the city went out for the tree planting and celebrated Fall Arbor Day on that day. And then just a couple updates about the archery program. It's still booming. We received our compliance certification from the National Academy of School Programs in Archery for our program. We also had Brian Carpenter received his archery certification so that he can teach classes, which we need another person to be teaching. And we're looking for indoor space to house an indoor archery program so that we can present it during the winter months. Right now, we can only do it as a summer program. But that's where we are with archery and Parks and Rec.
Good.
Thanks, Mr. Calfee. So with that, we'll move on to first reading of ordinances with ordinance number 2022-109.
An ordinance authorizing the Ohio Department of Transportation, ODOT, to conduct a municipal bridge inspection program in relation to the Prospect Street Bridge located within the municipal corporation of the city of Ravenna and declaring an emergency.
This is sponsored by Streets and Sidewalks. Mr. Harper.
Yep, exactly what it says. It's just our, ODOT will do a bridge inspection on the Prospect Street Bridge, and no cost to the city.
Is there any questions on this item? Do you anticipate how the time frame on, beginning to end when they do that?
I don't know. They've been doing it for years, and we don't even know they're doing it. We'll just get a report in the end when they're finished.
All good to go, okay. If there's no other questions then, do we have a motion to waive the 3 separate readings?
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Wood?
Yes.
Mr. Moskin?
Yes.
Mr. Calfee?
Yes.
Ms. West?
Yes.
Ms. Michael?
Yes.
Mr. Karas?
Yes.
Mr. Harper?
Yes.
And then a motion to adopt the emergency clause?
So moved.
Second.
Ms. West?
Yes.
Ms. Michael?
Yes.
Mr. Calfee?
Yes.
Mr. Moskin?
Yes.
Mr. Karas?
Yes.
Ms. Wood?
Yes.
Mr. Harper?
Yes.
And then a motion to pass the ordinance?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Harper?
Yes.
Ms. Michael?
Yes.
Mr. Calfee?
Yes.
Ms. West?
Yes.
Mr. Moskin?
Yes.
Mr. Karas?
Yes.
Ms. Wood?
Yes.
All right, that ordinance is adopted. The next item on the agenda is ordinance number 2022-110.
An ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into a contract with Hammond Tree Associates to provide land surveying service for the West Main Street widening project and appropriate $15,000 from the annual paving program and declaring an emergency.
This is also sponsored by Streets and Sidewalks. Mr. Harper?
Yep, this is to help the project of the paving of 59 when we get to that point. The scope of the work is listed in the packet. It's quite extensive. Yeah, this needs to happen so that we can get 59 paved.
Is there any questions from council on site?
When we talk about it being widening, how much is it going to be widened?
We'll widen 4.5 to 5 feet from where it is now.
From where it is now?
Correct.
Okay.
Total width when we're finished will be approximately 46.5, 47 feet.
And so that will also necessitate the sidewalk on that side to be actually moved back a little more?
No,
We
just
have
at the
enough room?
Just at the intersections, we'll have to move them back a little.
Just in the
further.
intersections only. And then also, you mentioned, I think during the committee meeting, when the widening program, when that would take place, that project. Was it 2024?
2023.
23, okay, so it is going to be next year.
The intent is to do all of it next year. However, there's a very good chance that the power poles won't all be relocated. So we may have to split it up 2023 and then the other half 2024.
And we've been working on having them move the power poles for a couple years now. Is there any way we can accelerate that? That's,
I wish.
they work at their own speed, okay.
Yeah, and it's not just First Energy, it's the other utilities on the poles.
They gotta get it off. Okay.
Yeah, I don't wanna go down that rabbit hole, but
Yeah,
that's been a pet peeve
yeah.
of mine too, so. Not only there, but around the city. Is there any other questions from council on this item? Do we have a motion to waive the 3 separate readings?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
Mr. Karas?
Yes.
Ms. West?
Yes.
Mr. Moskin?
Yes.
Ms. Michael?
Yes.
Ms. Wood?
Yes.
Mr. Harper?
Yes.
And a motion to adopt the emergency clause?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
Ms. Michael?
Yep.
Ms. West?
Yes.
Mr. Moskin?
Yes.
Mr. Karas?
Yes.
Ms. Wood?
Yes.
Mr. Harper?
Yes.
And then a motion to pass the ordinance?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Harper?
Yes.
Ms. Wood?
Yes.
Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
Ms. West?
Yes.
Mr. Moskin?
Yes.
Ms. Michael?
Yes.
Mr. Karas?
Yes.
All right, that ordinance is adopted. The next item on the agenda is ordinance number 2022-111.
An ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into an agreement with the director of the Ohio Environmental Protection Agency, EPA, to construct the Foxwood Estates Sanitary Sewer Improvements Project, to accept the grant in the amount of $488,230, and to appropriate the funds to be reimbursed by the EPA per the agreement and declaring an emergency.
And this is sponsored by Utilities, Mr. Moskin.
Yes. This is on Foxwood Estates toward the end of Bryn Mawr. And the residents that live on this street have been requesting this, but at the time they wanted the city to foot the whole cost. And now there'll be a grant to take care of that. And to be, like it says, reimbursed by the EPA. And hopefully that could be starting quite soon.
Anything we missed on that?
The residents were actually cited by the EPA
Okay.
and mandated to fix their problem. With that, the EPA stepped forward with the $488,000, which is based on my department's estimate for construction management, surveying, and basically a full installation.
So on the off chance it costs more, that's on us.
Where do we assess?
We cannot assess township residents. We believe this price is adequate.
Okay.
We believe that we've got a little fluff in it
Oh,
to be adequate.
Is there any other
seems
questions?
in line with what you estimated
Correct.
with a little packed in years ago.
Any other questions from council on this item? Do we have a motion to waive the 3 separate readings?
So moved.
Second.
Ms. West?
Yes.
Mr. Moskin?
Yes.
Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
Ms. Michael?
Yes.
Mr. Karas?
Yes.
Ms. Wood?
Yes.
Mr. Harper?
Yes.
And a motion to adopt the emergency clause?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Harper?
Yes.
Ms. Wood?
Yes.
Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
Ms. West?
Yes.
Mr. Moskin?
Yes.
Ms. Michael?
Yes.
Mr. Karas?
Yes.
And then a motion to pass the ordinance?
So move.
Second.
Mr. Karas?
Yes.
Ms. Wood?
Yes.
Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
Ms. West?
Yes.
Mr. Moskin?
Yes.
Ms. Michael?
Yes.
Mr. Harper?
Yes.
All right, that ordinance is adopted. The next item on the agenda is ordinance number 2022-112.
An ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into an agreement with tank industry consultants to perform a feasibility study for the conversion of the 3 million gallon standpipe to a 500,000 gallon elevated tank and to appropriate the sum of $39,000 and declaring an emergency.
This is also sponsored by Utilities. Mr. Moskin.
Yes, the reason for this conversion, a 3 million gallon tank is not appropriate. 500,000 would be appropriate for this tank. And the reason, like as was mentioned in the past, it's not a good idea for water to be sitting still as long as it would be in a $3 million tank. It needs to keep moving. So this would be a big asset.
And the EPA wants the standpipe, not the elevated, correct? Is that, or other way around?
They want us to be in compliance.
Yeah.
And currently, the 3 million gallon tank
Is not.
is not providing water that's in compliance.
Any questions on this item? Anything we missed, Bob?
When we look over the qualifications of the fellows that are going to do it, they've worked on 17,500 water tanks. It appears that they're quite an experienced company that have done this. And the fellow that's the principal actually wrote a book about doing this type of thing. So it's a great company. It's expensive price, but I think we're paying for what we're getting here on it.
There's no other questions? Do we have a motion to waive the 3 separate readings?
So moved.
Second?
Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
Ms. West?
Yes.
Mr. Moskin?
Yes.
Ms. Michael?
Yes.
Mr. Karas?
Yes.
Ms. Wood?
Yes.
Mr. Harper?
Yes.
And a motion to adopt the emergency clause?
So moved.
Second.
Ms. West?
Yes.
Ms. Wood?
Yes.
Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
Mr. Moskin?
Yes.
Ms. Michael?
Yes.
Mr. Karas?
Yes.
Mr. Harper?
Yes.
And then do we have a motion to pass the ordinance?
So moved.
Second.
Ms. West?
Yes.
Mr. Harper?
Yes.
Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
Mr. Moskin?
Yes.
Ms. Michael?
Yes.
Mr. Karas?
Yes.
Ms. Wood?
Yes.
All right, that ordinance is adopted. Next item on the agenda is ordinance number 2022-113.
An ordinance authorizing the mayor to advertise for bids according to law for chemicals required for the water and wastewater treatment for the calendar year 2023 pursuant to specifications now on file in the mayor's office and declaring an emergency.
And this is also sponsored by Utilities. Mr. Moskin?
Yes, these chemicals that would be looking for bids for the companies are required by the EPA for treatment, whether it's in potable water or wastewater treatment. And it just has to be done by the EPA. It's required for the operation of these 2 departments.
Any questions on this item? If there's no other questions, do we have a motion to waive the 3 separate readings?
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Wood?
Yes.
Mr. Moskin?
Yes.
Mr. Kelty?
Yes.
Ms. West?
Yes.
Ms. Michael?
Yes.
Mr. Karas?
Yes.
Mr. Harper?
Yes.
All right, do we have a motion to adopt the emergency clause?
So moved.
Second.
Ms. West?
Yes.
Ms. Michael?
Yes.
Mr. Kelty?
Yes.
Mr. Moskin?
Yes.
Mr. Karas?
Yes.
Ms. Wood?
Yes.
Mr. Harper?
Yes.
And then a motion to pass the ordinance.
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Wood?
Yes.
Mr. Karas?
Yes.
Mr. Kelty?
Yes.
Ms. West?
Yes.
Mr. Moskin?
Yes.
Ms. Michael?
Yes.
Mr. Harper?
Yes.
All right, that ordinance is adopted. Next item on the agenda is ordinance number 2022-114.
An ordinance amending the codified ordinances of the City of Ravenna, Part 12, Planning and Zoning Code, Title 6, Zoning, Chapter 1278, Supplementary Regulations, Section 1278.20, Roof pitch as described in Exhibit A.
And this was sponsored by Planning. Mr. Karas?
Yeah, so as a result of some appeals to the Board of Zoning Appeals, they're recommending through Bob's office that we change our code regarding the pitch of non-attached utility structures.
Accessory structure.
Accessory structures. like a shed,
Garage.
garage. Oh, not a shed?
A shed would be temporary shed.
Oh, okay. Thanks for
Accessory.
clarifying that. And it's because they're building them, is it metal roofs that?
Correct.
So,
They're, in essence, carports with sidewalls.
okay.
Steel garages have become very popular because of the wood shortage.
Yeah, so rather than having residents continually go to the Board of Zoning Appeals, it makes sense to change the ordinance. I wasn't sure, I know in the past, and I've never understood the practice of keeping zoning issues on for 3 readings and a public hearing. Is this the kind of thing that needs to go through that process? Because I know the next one will.
I would say that's something for Mr. Semino. I know the previous clerk of council, anything in chapter 12 of our codified ordinances,
Right.
she would read 3 times. I never understood why. Just went along with it.
I guess at this point, you know, it is an amendment to that section. So, I think the appropriate thing would be to do that.
3 readings?
3 readings.
Okay. Thank you.
Is there any questions on this item as it stands? So we'll leave this here for second reading. Moving on to ordinance number 2022-115 then.
An ordinance amending the codified ordinances of the City of Ravenna, Part 12, Planning and Zoning Code, Title 6, Zoning, Chapter 1266, Districts Generally and Zoning Map, Section 1266.03, Zoning Map by rezoning Portage County parcel number 31-316-10-00-012-000 from R4 Residential District to I1 Industrial District as described in Exhibit A.
All right, and just to highlight the attached letter that should be in your packet from Mayor Seaman, that's also there from Planning Commission, but this is sponsored by Planning. Mr. Karas, do you want me to hand this over to you, or do you want me to?
It's part of the process for our medical marijuana dispensary. They bought the residence next to where they're planning to set up. And it's zoned as R4, and they wanted our I1, so it'll be same as their property. And so according to the letter, this has been approved, and there's been a public hearing for the Planning Commission?
Well, Planning Commission did not hold a public hearing for this. They heard the proposal to rezone the land and the purpose why they're requesting it to be rezoned. Then it becomes city council's, it's passed on to city council for their public hearing and their resolution.
Okay,
Or
so they're not
ordinance.
going to have a public hearing on this
Planning
particular?
Commission, correct. Planning Commission is done with this specific item.
Okay, and like the previous one, we'll leave it on for 3 readings, and at some point, we'll have to schedule a public hearing, probably closer to the 3rd reading.
Any questions on this item? So we'll leave this here and move on to ordinance number 2022-116.
An ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into an agreement with Energy Harbor to supply electricity to the city streetlights for the period from May 2023 through December 2027 and declaring an emergency.
And this was sponsored by a committee of the whole, is where we heard it for the first time. Is there any updates, Kay, that we need to be aware of? I think
No,
that-
everything's the same.
Okay. And the $5.99 per kilowatt hour was the contract from May 2023 through December of 2027. So,
Yeah, that'll be a fixed rate.
okay. Is there any questions from council on this item? Do we have a motion to waive the 3 separate readings?
So moved.
Second?
Ms. Michael?
Yes.
Ms. West?
Yes.
Mr. Kelpy?
Yes.
Mr. Moskin?
Yes.
Mr. Karas?
Yes.
Ms. Wood?
Yes.
Mr. Harper?
Yes.
And a motion to adopt the emergency clause?
So moved.
Second.
Ms. West?
Yes.
Mr. Moskin?
Yes.
Mr. Kelpy?
Yes.
Ms. Michael?
Yes.
Mr. Karas?
Yes.
Ms. Wood?
Yes.
Mr. Harper?
Yes.
And then a motion to pass?
So moved.
Second?
Mr. Harper?
Yes.
Mr. Karas?
Yes.
Mr. Kelpy?
Yes.
Ms. West?
Yes.
Mr. Moskin?
Yes.
Ms. Michael?
Yes.
Ms. Wood?
Yes.
All All right, that is everything on first reading of ordinances, and we'll move on to second reading of ordinances, beginning with ordinance number 2022-101.
An ordinance amending ordinance number 2021-110 by amending Exhibit A, Section 3, Service Department, subsection B1, by adding 2 full-time water distribution workers and declaring an emergency.
And this was originally sponsored by Personnel. Mr. Calfee, is there any updates or?
No updates on this one.
All right. Is there any questions from council on this item?
Was there,
Yep.
there is information that, Rob, you had requested at the last one?
I don't think it was me, was it?
I thought it was you. Didn't we ask for, what was it that we had asked for? Was it the description or like what department it was actually gonna fall under? And none of that, what was it? Do you
It was the
remember?
department, you guys weren't sure what department it was, could fall under.
And we still don't.
Okay.
But the ordinance still reads street,
Oh.
because that's what it's currently under.
So if it would change, would we have to change if it's showing under street right now? If it were to become under a different department, would it have to come back?
I think that could just be amended in the payroll ordinance,
Yeah, we do that every year anyway. It would have to be,
so it could
I
be
was just
changed.
curious.
It could be changed there, sure.
Okay. Is there any questions from council on the item as it reads?
Well, as it reads, it's in the street department. You know, should there be a change, that would have to be amended and/or corrected when you do the next ordinance dealing with that.
And I just have a question, and I know it was mentioned a while back on, the EPA was requesting, I forget the exact verbiage right now, but it was supposed to be requested back to the EPA of some type of a plan. And I was just wondering if that was done and what the EPA response was, or if there has been one.
Well, originally, when I brought this, I had mentioned that it's highly recommended by the EPA, so nothing there has changed. So I don't have anything new to bring to the table. I think I've given all the information.
Do we want to leave this here for a third reading, or does anyone want to make a motion?
I'd like to leave it here.
For a third?
I'm okay with making a motion at this point. I don't know what more really we can do. I mean, we have to have these workers at this point. I mean, we're only hurting, the citizens in the long run, because if we're not up to staff and up to par, that's, our job to appropriate these funds, so, I mean.
And then just a
And
quick logistical question then to the street department or another department that would be changed in the payroll ordinance that we vote on. That would be an update to the payroll ordinance. Is that logistics behind that? Maybe that's
The
better.
Logistics. I mean, the ordinance says what it says.
Mhm.
To the extent that that wants to change, you have to amend that ordinance to whatever else it is you want to do.
And I guess-
As it stands, that's the way it reads.
I mean, as much as, some of us are, personally may not agree with maybe where it's located right now, I mean, we don't have the power to change that.
Is there a reason why it couldn't be its own department underneath you as the service director?
Money.
I didn't hear what you said.
That's something we have. If it What do could you be think, its Brian? own department underneath the service director.
And that's, my question is regardless if it's its own department falls under streets or another department in the end, that moving forward, at least with these two positions, they get hired
We
out.
have to know we have the two
Right.
positions before we can straighten the rest of it out.
Do we have
Plus, we have negotiations that we have to do with the fire
And-
department.
And that's my next question, is the logistics of that. If it were to change which department, to Rob's point, that would come back to the payroll ordinance that would be amended then? Okay, sorry, that's what I meant by logistics of it all.
Do we have all the other positions that the street department filled?
We just, let me see, there's gonna be one starting, I believe, next Monday. And then I believe that, HR just, there was a gentleman that came in Friday, and, it looks like he's gonna also, we have to do all the background, all that stuff has to be
So
done, but.
the one position that we're not adding was already there, but we never, didn't have anybody in the position, I believe was the utility operator.
That's correct.
Is that one of the two positions you just mentioned? Because I
No,
know that
those
was,
are service worker twos that we just are gonna be hiring.
so, but I thought there was an announcement out for utility operator. Where are we with that search?
Still looking.
Not
That was
ones
the
walk
tough
through
one.
the door get certified.
Yeah, that's,
I
Yeah,
mean,
that was
we're
gonna be
having a
harder to
problem.
find, right?
Yeah, we're having a problem because they don't have the licensing.
Right.
You know, I'm on the periphery of this as far as these employees, the issues that we've had regarding termination, et cetera. But I believe what I've seen is that people come on board and don't necessarily last, or they walk on or walk off. And I'm, obviously not in legislative or administrative, but just so you know, if these are the questions you're asking, it's been a challenge trying to get people to remain, find them, and get on the job. I was talking with the mayor today, and one of the positions, and I'm not sure it was this one, but there was another one, where they've looked at 40 resumes and have not been able to get the right person to fill the bill. So there's a challenge that's out there, and I think that reflects on the ability of the department to accomplish its task.
we also need to remember that with that challenge comes some of our, we have to just be really creative, and management really has to step up and kind of work with this challenge, because we are not the only ones dealing with this. The whole country is. Everyone's dealing with it. So if we really need to step back and look at what can we be doing differently, or, can we manage a little bit differently, or something, is there something we need to change from the top going down instead of always looking at the people coming in? That's all.
What's frustrating is, there was one guy that, we were really interested in hiring him. Well, the deal breaker was he couldn't drive a city vehicle home. And that was in the street department. It's like, what kind of vehicle do you think
He wanted
he
to
was gonna?
take it home.
So like,
And
is
that
he
was
gonna
the
drive
deal
a dump
breaker.
truck home? It's
Would
like,
he
I don't know
want-
what he's gonna do.
And we're certainly gonna run into those too. I think we're gonna run into issues on all ends, so just,
And
don't
we're
think he lived in
getting,
town
we're
either,
getting
did
a
he?
lot with,
Yeah, he lived.
these people are saying, well, I'm really looking for the work-life balance.
Yeah.
It's just the whole dynamics of
Everything's
everything
changing.
has
Yeah.
changed so much.
everything's changing. So we need to just
It's
keep
really
it
hard.
in the back of our heads what we can do to change, because everything is changing. And if we continue to operate the same way while everything else is changing around us, then we're not gonna
Well,
find the
Well,
solution.
Do you have
we are-
suggestions?
I have no clue. I'm just saying we need to keep
I
it
was
in
just
the,
curious.
I'm just saying we need to keep it in the back of our minds and pay attention to it,
Well,
just like everybody else.
Some of the changes we're looking at is accepting people that look like they have a good work ethic, but they don't have the credentials. Where we're gonna give them a chance,
Yeah.
and they're gonna work on that and get them in a certain time period with that. So we are looking for ways to do this.
Believe me, in my field, in my job professionally, I see it all the time. We can't find people. We can't find workers, and we are trying every effort to try to be creative and work together and try. We're all in the same boat on this, and it's a big struggle. So I'm not saying, I think we just have to look at all aspects of it, that's all.
And I appreciate the conversation and the struggle everybody's having, but one thing we can't control is whether we approve the 2 full-time water distribution workers. So I want to bring it back to that
I
conversation.
just have one more question.
Yep.
Because they are union positions, and we are getting ready to do negotiations and stuff, how does that affect if they're under the street department and they're union positions? How does that affect us if we want to change the payroll ordinance later and move them out of the street
It
department?
shouldn't make
We'll
any
still be
difference.
asking.
They're
Okay.
still in the
Yeah,
union.
Yeah, everybody on the
Yeah.
street department's asked me.
And water
plant
and utility.
wastewater, and,
Okay.
the meter reader, so, yeah.
They're all under the same.
So
except
regardless, it's gonna
fire.
stay in that
Right.
union.
I just know sometimes the unions can be touchy about positions, so
No, it'll all be the same.
Tell you on Thursday, we meet with them first.
I'll come.
Mr. Kluge, I think, given the amount of discussion that we've put into it, I believe that it's at a point where we possibly should go ahead and waive the three readings and move to pass it tonight.
I agree.
Well, and Ms. Michael, correct me if I'm wrong, we have
Sure,
a motion
yeah,
on
yeah.
the floor.
So are you seconding?
What's the motion?
I made a motion
To waive
to waive them.
Second.
Ms. Michael?
Yes.
Mr. Kelsey?
Yes.
Ms. West?
Yes.
Mr. Moskin?
No.
Mr. Cares?
Yes.
Ms. Wood?
Yes.
Mr. Harper?
Yes.
Do we have a motion to adopt the emergency clause?
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Michael?
Yes.
Mr. Kelsey?
Yes.
Ms. West?
Yes.
Mr. Moskin?
No.
Mr. Cares?
Yes.
Ms. Wood?
Yes.
Mr. Harper?
Yes.
Then do we have a motion to pass the ordinance?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Kelsey?
Yes.
Mr. Cares?
Yes.
Ms. West?
Yes.
Mr. Moskin?
No.
Ms. Michael?
Yes.
Ms. Wood?
Yes.
Mr. Harper?
Yes.
All right, that ordinance is adopted. The next item on the agenda is ordinance number 2022-105.
An ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into an agreement with Quality IP to provide security awareness training to the city of Ravenna employees at a rate of $175 per month and declaring an emergency.
Yeah, this is sponsored by Information Systems. Do you want me to hand it to Brian?
I'm gonna hand it to Brian.
Okay. I was just looking at this right before the meeting, and I did get this corrected. I worked with Jen over at Quality IP. They put what we just talked about at the last meeting, the date that says December 1st. They wanted to do it December 1st. They needed some setup time. So December 1st, 22 to November 30th, 23. So they did put that in the agreement. I just realized, though, I did not send it to Chelsea, because this one in here does not have that on there. I sent it just to Christine, and I'm sorry, I forgot to send it to everybody else, so it is in there.
Could you repeat those dates again?
So the dates were December 1st, 22 to November 30th, 23.
Okay.
So it's the 1 year.
They're kind of odd dates.
Well, they wanted to start at the beginning of the month is what they wanted to start with, because they needed a couple weeks to get it all set up and ready to go.
Be 11/31 then? You're talking about the end of November?
The end of November, yeah.
Okay.
November 23. But yeah, I apologize.
I forwarded it on
11/30,
everything.
yeah.
You did?
Yeah, you're right.
30
You're
Oh,
right.
good.
You're right.
Okay.
April, June, end of November.
All right. Are there any questions on this item? Do we want to leave this here for a third reading, or do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to move it forward.
Second.
Well, you need to waive the three readings.
To waive the.
Waive the three, okay.
Motion to waive.
I'll make a motion to waive the three readings.
I should have asked it a little bit better, so I apologize.
Second.
Ms. Wood?
Yes.
Ms. West?
Yes.
Mr. Kelsey?
Yes.
Mr. Moskin?
Yes.
Ms. Michael?
Yes.
Mr. Cares?
Yes.
Mr. Harper?
Yes.
All right, a motion to adopt the emergency clause?
So move.
Second.
Ms. Wood?
Yes.
Ms. West?
Yes.
Mr. Kelsey?
Yes.
Mr. Moskin?
Yes.
Ms. Michael?
Yes.
Mr. Cares?
Yes.
Mr. Harper?
Yes.
And then a motion to pass the ordinance?
So moved.
Second.
Ms. West?
Yes.
Ms. Wood?
Yes.
Mr. Kelsey?
Yes.
Mr. Moskin?
Yes.
Ms. Michael?
Yes.
Mr. Cares?
Yes.
Mr. Harper?
Yes.
All right. That ordinance is adopted. There is nothing else, that is everything on second reading of ordinances. We have nothing on third reading of ordinances. Is there any old or new business to come before council outside of the trash updates that will be on public health and safety coming up? All right. In terms of remarks, tomorrow's election day, so remember to vote. I think you covered Parks and Rec. That was a lot of fun going to that event. Looking forward to more Main Street events, so appreciate you providing an update. And with that, I'll throw it to Mr. Harper, if you have anything you'd like to say this evening.
Nothing additional, thank you.
Ms. Michael?
I have just a few quick things. Definitely remember to go vote. Second of all, thank you to Ravenna PD for all your hard work on Saturday. You guys had a great crew of people out there working, and they caught me at Walmart. I totally forgot about it, and then I saw them, and I'm like panicked because I had to find cash on me. So thank you so much for all you guys do and the help. And I did talk with LaJoyce at the Center Hope, and they, of course, are running low again. So any donation that anybody is able to make there, times are hard this time right now, and their pantry is lower than normal right now. So encourage everyone to give a little bit. So the other thing I wanted to bring up is, remember the Balloon Affair is having a Christmas parade, and if anybody, I would encourage anyone to try to promote getting some people in it. I know we've talked about getting some floats or whatever, but I think it's important to, try to, if anyone's interested on being a part of it, let me know. But I think, the more the merrier, as they so to say, but I think it would be great to see more participation. And the other thing, this is kind of something maybe Main Street might want to tag onto this, but it's really bothersome to me on trying to get, and I know, I think Jeff and I talked about this at one point too, community spirit in our town and to get more of it. And I really would like to see homecoming come back to Ravenna. It's really bothered me, and we've talked about it. Every year we talk about it.
I got
And-
it approved through the
But
schools at
other
one point.
communities, when I have seen and different people through Facebook, what communities do for homecoming is unbelievable. And I know what we did when I was growing up in Ravenna was much bigger than what it is now. So I really am putting it out there now for people to start thinking of ideas. But I spoke with a school board member, and I'm still not done yet. And I know my kids are done out of high school, but community spirit means so much. And once you start to spread it, it continues to go. And whether it's like a huge alumni night where you invite all the classes and participate with downtown, I don't know, get the door involved. There's so many things that could be done, but I'm just putting it out there now. Whatever we can do in the city to maybe work more with community spirit in our downtown and with our schools. I know Julie's always good, when I've called her to put stuff on the bulletin board, but we just need to be more consistent. And, even with our water towers, like I think Jeff had pointed out to me one time when we had a conversation, like Streetsboro, other communities are putting their schools, their mascot on there and stuff. So, I would like to see more community spirit. So that's just something that's really been on my heart a lot, and I wanted to start it now. So that's all.
Mr. Karas?
Being election day tomorrow has been mentioned. If you need a reason to go vote, the Charter Review Commission has put up a bunch of amendments. So that's pretty big for us to change our charter, and I know one of the members is here tonight.
Thank you.
That's it.
Mr. Roskin?
Yes. And when I look at other countries, I think this country, I'm so thankful that we have the privilege to vote, and we should never turn that down. And the other thing is, that makes me wonder, political signs, I've seen some of them up months before, 30 days before the election. And if I'm not mistaken, there's an ordinance of, if I'm not mistaken, 9 square feet. I've seen, pardon?
We've talked about that.
I know I've seen some 4 by 8 feet. And I know it's been talked about before, but either something should be done to enforce it or change the ordinance altogether.
I think we have a problem with that as far as the public's. I believe we have a problem with trying to enforce those statutes. I think the one that we deal with as far as the devil strip or tree line
Yes.
seems to be appropriate, and I think we have the ability to enforce that. to the extent of these other signs, the length of time they're out, the amount of size that they can assume, I think we have a very minimal aspect on trying to control any of that. So I think it's just the way the law is developed.
Okay.
We wrote that with good intention. I was on council early on. They did that, and it was with good intentions, but now we found out it's unable to be enforced, so I understand your point on that.
Okay, thank you.
I appreciate your remarks, and I don't want to get into a debate, so I think the floor is yours if you want to make remarks. So if you want to say anything else, whether or not we agree or not, the floor is yours. I want to make sure you have it. You have the ability to say what you want, and any other
Sorry.
member, no, you're fine, of council has that ability.
That was all for my remarks tonight.
Mr. Calfee?
I want to just mention again how proud we are of Officer DeHoff and his work. And I want to thank the chief for bringing that award and the mayor to bring that forward tonight. That was outstanding work on behalf of the citizens of Ravenna, and we thank him for that outstanding service.
And to piggyback off of that, it was nice to see, we're seeing a lot more of RPD presence at community things, at community outings. My grandson's very upset. He lost the spider ring that he received at the RPD tent at Trick or Treat, so I've been looking all over for them. But it was great to see so many kids and to see that, community policing and to see that positive effort out there. The other thing is I gave everybody a PARTA 2023 trolley calendar. They're neat. It kind of shows you the makings of the trolley. I'm on the citizens board for PARTA, and they shared some great things over the next year. They're looking to change up their software, really looking at their routes. So we're looking at some big changes for PARTA over the next year. So we just need to be patient with that. Hopefully they can recognize what's working and what's not and make some changes. And there's going to be 8 trolleys in service throughout the county when they're all said and done.
Wow.
So we're waiting on the 3rd right now. So it's really neat to kind of look through and see the process of how they're built. So I wanted to share that with everybody.
Thank you. That was really neat. And I don't have any further comments.
Can I ask one quick question, Ms. Michael, before handing off to the mayor? The Christmas parade you were talking about, do you know who's organizing that? Is that Chamber or is that?
Balloon
It is the
Affair.
Balloon Fair.
Balloon Affair.
So if somebody wants to be in it, they should contact the
They
Balloon Affair.
call 296 FAIR.
Okay, thank you. Mayor?
Well, we mentioned almost everything I've written down here. We will have to have further discussion on the Crystal Lake proposal. With that, as with everything, there's a lot that can go wrong there with this, and I'm not speaking for or against it. We need to analyze it and realize what a valuable asset that is. And then there are some other conditions that we need to be cognizant of before we make those decisions. I don't know if any of you noticed today, but they began the demolition on the 213 Main. Had a nightmare the other night watching the news in Lorraine, where they were taking a building down that was about 5 stories, and the top part shifted and went over and took the next building out. So I didn't sleep real well last night with that, but this is underway. We are starting negotiations on Thursday. We're going to make every effort to get the police and AFSCME settled by the 1st of the year. I don't believe we'll start negotiations with the fire department until early December. They are all studying for the test for advancement, and they asked not to meet until they had satisfied that, which we've honored that request. With that, I think we talked about the election, and the only other thing is I will not be here next Monday or Tuesday. I'm going to the Capitol Conference, which is a school board thing, but I can go for free. And there are all kinds of things there about cities' relationships with schools. Plus, they are having a session on the ethics training down there that I also going to go to. So that's all I have.
I also wanted to mention, I found out today that the city wasn't awarded the urban canopy grant. So the arborist, he isn't quite sure why, but he's gonna look into it, and hopefully we can be better prepared next year. It's like this year, it was kind of like last minute that we threw everything together, so he's hoping, we'll be successful next year.
We will be underway planting 40 trees, I believe. Plus, I don't think that counts the ones that'll be going in over at the parking lot, so there'll be more there.
Those are done, aren't they, the parking lot, the trees?
Parking lot trees are done.
Yeah.
They're done?
They look good. All right. Mayor, if you have nothing else, then
No, I don't know how about the rest of you, but I was glad to look at all my big trees and there's no leaves on them. Now I have to get them to the street. I did work on part of that, but we get phone calls about that every day. When's it coming by? And we've been very fortunate. Everything's been dry and they're easy to move, so hopefully we can get a lot of it done in the next week or so.
all right. Do we have a motion to adjourn if there's nothing else?
So moved. Second.
Second.